Welcome back to the channel, and on today's video we're going back to basics. We're going to be looking at running fundamentals, so let's get into it. Much like every other Monday video where we talk about something about running, I have found an article in order to base this video off of, and this week I found an article in Outside Online, and the article is titled "Want to Get Better at Running? Be Ruthless About the Fundamentals." And look, in a nutshell, the article is saying that there are lots of fancy ways to go about your training, but really there are a few tried and true methods that equal success, and that's what we're going to be talking about today. Okay, so this article I think is based on an interview with Mario Fraioli. Mario is a coach. He lives out near San Francisco, and he's been a coach for 20 years. He's been a runner for 27 years. He's got a 2:27 marathon PB. So the guy has put in this time. He knows how to run fast, and really he's worth listening to. And over this long career, marked with several personal successes and coaching successes, Fraioli has come up with 7 pillars of running. Well, not really 7 pillars of running, but 7 pillars of training to make you a better runner. Oh, and I will place a link in the show notes below in case you want to go and check it out yourself. But the first of Fraioli's pillars of training is that good runners are good athletes first. And I know what some of you are probably thinking. You're probably thinking, well, Matt, I'm not really that good of an athlete. I didn't like doing other sports. I came to running because maybe it's easily accessible. I heard it was an inexpensive sport, even though we've repeatedly proved that to be untrue. But that's not what we're talking about. We're definitely not talking about that running is not an inexpensive sport. And we're not talking about other sports making you a good athlete. Now, being a good athlete isn't about being a good runner. It's not being good at any other sport, but it's about being well-rounded. And the article describes this as being strong, robust, and to develop balance and stability. And how do we do that? Well, if you said strength training, you'd be right. But then there's everything else that goes with it. It's not focusing on our one sport of running. It's cross-training, it's stretching, it's doing drills. Doesn't say it in the article, but I'm scared to say this also, but it could be foam rolling. No, it can't be foam rolling. Anyway, I think the point is that there is more that goes into being a good runner than just going out for a run. And I think the best way to describe being a good runner as being more than just going out for a run is that if you do something, you can also improve that thing. And how we improve our running is by being a more well-rounded athlete, by strength training, by cross training, by stretching. We'll skip that one, but all the things. All that comes together to strengthen your body and actually makes you a better runner. So yes, being a good runner means you are a good athlete first. Number 2, rest and recovery are part of your training. They are not punishment. That's despite how it actually feels. Now, I shouldn't say it like that because sometimes rest and recovery does feel good. But for me, rest and recovery feels good when I've really hammered myself or when my volume has been getting so high that I just feel like I have to take a break. And Fraioli points out that runners are pushers by nature. You know what I mean? Like, in order to get better, we have to run more. We have to run faster. We have to do more workouts. But Fraioli does point out the obvious, and it's only obvious when I hear someone else say it, but he says that easy days are just as integral to your running success as the long run, as the workout. And even though he says easy days, we are also talking about just rest days where we're not running. Now, the article quotes Bill Bowerman as saying that if we look at a very simple organism, gives the example of a freshman, and we make this organism lift or jump or run, and then we make it rest. And what happens? A miracle happens. It gets stronger. It's able to lift more, jump higher, run faster. And ultimately, that is what our training is. When we stress our system, follow that with rest, it leads to growth. Look, I know, these are pretty basic, right? These are the fundamentals, but they are easy to forget. Number 3, small deposits add up to big gains over time. And this is true, right? Especially if, like me, you've been running for a while, we can look back and we can see that in the beginning, there were some big gains. Like when you start running, you are going to run further, you're going to run faster, and those gains are enormous. But then as we get older, as we run for longer, those gains become more incremental. And Fraioli points out that not every workout can be a home run. If we try to hit a home run every single time we go out for a workout, we're going to have a lot of misses. I realize I'm mixing my analogies here. And Fraioli says that he would rather see athletes stack consistent training over time than by risking a workout, by going out too hard, pushing a little too much, and then potentially getting injured and being set back. We can avoid that setback by being a little more methodical, thinking through our workouts a little more, and maybe not going to the absolute limit every time. And Fraioli says that he would love to see his athletes be able to run 10 B+ workouts than 3 or 4 A+ workouts, because it's more sustainable over time. And if we can sustain solid workouts over time, we are going to see more growth over that time. And with that is a good follow-up to number 3. Number 4 is consistency is more important than intensity. And I think we've just explained why. The secret is not running faster. The secret is not necessarily running more. It's running on a regular basis. And this running faster and running more is a trap that a lot of us runners get caught in, because it is possible to see quick gains when you start running faster or when you start start running more. But Fraioli says that consistency over time is better than these short-term increases. By increases, I mean increases in performance because you are running faster. And this is where we have to listen to someone with long-term experience in coaching, because they've been able to see it play out through a lot of people, through a lot of runners. Now, the article points out how pro runners often run their easy runs or their recovery runs a lot slower than amateur runners do. And the article gives the example of Eliud Kipchoge and how he will often start his easy runs at as slow as 8:45-minute mile, which is very much shuffling when you consider how fast that guy runs a marathon. So if I take myself as an example, my marathon time is about, an hour and 15 minutes slower than Eliud Kipchoge. And yet my easy runs are right around that same pace, right around 8:45 to 9. If I take Kipchoge as an example, I should probably be running my really easy runs, or at least starting off my easy runs at around 10 or 10.5-minute miles. And this running easy so we can remain consistent is especially true for runners that are coming back from an injury. Now, when we're coming back from an injury, guys, I've been there. It is very easy to say, I'm just going to kick it up. I'm just going to push a little more so I can get back my fitness to where I was before I was injured, and then I'll pull back. That is really tricky because it can definitely heighten your risk of re-injuring yourself. Now, Fraioli isn't saying not to add intensity into your workout program, but it's important to do it in the right dosage. It's like that saying that everything is poisonous, it's just a matter of degree, and intensity is certainly that way. So to wrap all that rambling up into like less than 5 seconds, consistency should be your top priority. Number 5, your rate of perceived exertion is your most reliable training metric. And I think this definitely makes sense on the surface, because before we had watches measuring everything from our heart rate, our power, our pace, all runners had was to gauge their runs by their RPE, their rate of perceived exertion. And by gauging your workouts by your RPE, you're training your body to know what it is to run at a certain pace, rather than having a watch tell you you need to be running at a certain pace or you need to be running at a certain heart rate. Because when I look at my watch and I think that I need to be running at a certain pace, I have got that idea of what running that pace is from somewhere else. Like maybe it's a pie in the sky idea that I can run a race at a certain pace. So I've got to train at that pace, even though I've just pulled that number out of the sky. Whereas if I didn't have a watch, if I didn't have a pace idea in my head, I would go out and I would run at a pace that I thought was sustainable for that amount of time, right? Gauging your workouts, gauging your runs by RPE is a great way to learn your body and to trust yourself to make adjustments when it's necessary. I think RPE is especially important when we're going out on recovery days or easy days, because on those days, pace really doesn't matter. Heart rate really doesn't matter. The idea of a recovery run or an easy run is to run slow enough where you are recovering, or where it's actually kept easy, where you can have a conversation the entire time. So if you run just by how you feel, you're going to have a better idea that you're feeling good, rather than what you think your pace should be like when you're running easy. And look, I'm going to blow your mind here, but a certain pace is going to feel easier for some runners than others. I know. And get this, that same pace can be difficult or more easy for the same runner depending on the day. Of course, we're not going to get into that here. You know why it happens. There are so many variables that can make one run feel harder, and the same pace run the next day feels easier. So all that to say, if you're training with RPE, you don't have to worry about any of that nonsense. Now, there's still a place for all that data, but learn how to read your body first. Fundamentals include RPE as a gauge for intensity. Number 6 is titled, Once You Get Fancy, Fancy Gets Broken. Okay, now in this case, this is referring to Jacob Ingebrigtsen's double threshold workouts, which, unless you are a runner that is not on social media or hiding under a rock, you know that Jacob Ingebrigtsen has seen enormous success, and his training methods are, well, they're quite intense. Now, Fraioli points out that, yes, if you are on the leading edge of human performance, if you are the best in the world at something, and you're looking for just an incremental gain to make you that much better, then maybe you can try something fancy, like double threshold workouts. But for the rest of us, turns out that getting a big base of mileage, doing some threshold runs, and then repeating that over a long period of time is going to make you improve far more than doing some fancy workouts. In fact, Fraioli says that getting that big base, running those threshold workouts, and then repeating that over years, that's where 99% of improvement is going to come from. And the cliche of not losing the forest for the trees is repeated throughout this article. And I think it's especially true with this fancy double threshold workout, because if you start focusing on that one workout being a tree, you're missing the entire picture. You're missing the forest. Now, Fraioli also points out that there's really nothing about Kipchoge's workouts that are extraordinary. He has just been doing those workouts, and he's been working hard for 20 years. So stick to the fundamentals, stick to them over time, and you will see improvement. And the 7th pillar of training is to find joy in the drudgery. And I think I think we can probably all relate to this. Every run is not going to be fun. There is a lot of repetition involved in running. And I don't just mean repeating the same movement over and over again. I mean, it's the same runs, it's the same workouts. I mean, there are small changes, but they're all very similar. And it's important to remember that when we're going out and we're doing these workouts, and by workouts I'm including everything, like all our running, our easy runs, our recovery runs, our threshold, our intervals. There is a lot of repetition there, but it's important to remember that this is what we enjoy doing. We started it because we enjoy it. So I want you to remind yourself to find joy in what you're doing, even when you're in the mix. And by that, I mean even when it doesn't feel good. Remind yourself that you are enjoying this. And it may actually take you thinking to yourself, wait a second, I want to do this. And by reminding yourself that you do enjoy it, it's going to give you the motivation to continue over the long course, which is where we're going to see improvement. Look, running can be a slog, but it also isn't. Okay, my friends, if you haven't made it to this point in the video, well, first of all, if you found this video entertaining or informative, I would love if you would consider subscribing. And if you like this video, you could show that by leaving a like. And if you have made it to this point in the video, I want you to drop that face that's blowing air out, almost like they've run a hard workout and they're really exhausted from it. And that would just let me know that you have stayed to this very late point in the video. And for that, I thank you. And for now, it's Matt B. This has been a video on Mario Frioli's 7 Pillars of Training. Be kind, be happy, run well. I'll see you in a couple of days.